Okay, so good to see you. I hope you're well this morning. J'espère que vous allez bien. Well, over the last couple of days, I've had lots of good conversation with my team, with my key organizers. I've received a lot of support from across the country, and I wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to all these supporters. But essentially, I had to ask myself two questions. The first one is, am I ready to be the first woman to lead the Liberal Party of Canada? And the answer is yes. And am I ready, at the same time, to step away from my responsibilities as Minister of Foreign Affairs at a time where it is a crucial time in the Canada-US relationship? And the answer is no. And the reality is I can't do both. So I'm heading into the Canada-US Committee in the Cabinet room, and we will be talking about retaliatory measures against potential tariffs from President-elect Trump. And we will be ready, and I'll do my job. And so I'll be in Washington next week. Spoke to Senator Graham again this morning. And of course, I'll be running to win Hansard-Cartierville because this is the passion of my life.
How difficult is it to have amassed a great deal of support potentially for this bid? Will you direct those supporters elsewhere, and if so, to whom?
For sure, we'll have a strong organization. I'm an organizer. I've created a party when I was 34 and ran for the mayoral bid of the biggest city the second biggest city in Canada, the biggest city in Quebec. And yes, I have an organizing base. And yes, we will play a role in this leadership race.
Is there anyone who you would like to see take over as Liberal leader who you think would be best placed to take on Donald Trump?
So do you know who's running?
I don't know yet.
I don't know either. So it's an hypothetical question.
The list of retaliatory tariffs that you're considering, the possible list, how soon, like what's going to trigger you to release that? What needs to happen for that next step to come?
So listen, my job is not to tell you this morning what will be the strategy, because I think that would be not a good strategy. But what I can tell you, though, is that we'll be ready. And at the same time, we need to take the tariff threat as a real threat, so very seriously. We need to make sure to be ready, and we need to make sure also that we stand up for Canadians. You know, my job today and my choice today is I'm putting my country first. And I've been passionate at what I'm doing. I've been a foreign minister now for 3 years, and I know how much this is serious. Why? Because I've had numerous conversations in Mar-a-Lago, in Florida, and at the same time in D.C.
Is the $50,000 entrance fee too high? Do you think that'll be bad for the race?
I think the leadership rules are good. Actually, that's why it was such a difficult choice. And that's why you hear that I still have a bit of a cold, because I was really torn about this decision. Because, to be frank, I think that our chances were really, really high. But the reality is I'm foreign minister at a time that is crucial in our history, and Canadians are anxious when they hear President-elect Trump saying and restating again his threats and his also entire rhetoric regarding the 51st state. So I decided to put my country first, and I decided to do my job.
So you think you would have won if you ran in the race?
I think I had really good chances.
Do you think you would have stayed on after the election if it didn't go well, though? Like, as a Liberal leader, did that factor into your considerations at all?
Of course. And ultimately, I think that my job is to win Hansard-Cartierville, and I'll do so. You know what? I've created a party in Montreal when I was 34, out of nothing. And afterwards, what happened is I led the national campaign, and the Liberals won in the last election. I love organizing, folks. I'm fundamentally an entrepreneur and an organizer. Maybe that's something that you don't know about me. But this is something you should remind yourselves about. And at the same time, I have a deep sense of duty towards my country. And that's why, ultimately, I'm making sure to take this difficult decision.
Justement, est-ce que vous pouvez nous expliquer deux questions? À quel point ça a été difficile pour vous à prendre comme décision? Et deux,
Rules are adequate to deal with foreign interference, and do you have concerns about that in this leadership race?
This is certainly something that my team and I were looking into, and we were making representations to the National Board. Because for me, being the foreign minister, knowing the threats of foreign interference towards our country, and having been also participating in the public inquiry on foreign interference, I wanted to make sure it was clear. And it is now clear. And I think that's the case for the Liberal Party of Canada. I think the Conservative Party need to look at themselves in the mirror and answer that tough question, because they haven't answered it. I think that Poilievre has decided not to take this security briefing, which is a fundamental risk for the country, and it is a problem. And I think also the NDP needs to look at themselves as well.
Canada has dealt with Donald Trump before. What's different this time around?
I think President-elect Trump has more experience, has had time to think about his first term, has been able to gather quickly a team of people that are very loyal to him. And he understands the functioning of not only Washington, but also geopolitics. And so we are not only in front of a seasoned politician, but also a seasoned decision maker, which is actually the most powerful one in the world.
Can you walk us through the decision again? You're saying you think that you had a great chance of winning, but you want to stay on in your role to help protect Canada, but then why not do that as Prime Minister?
Well, my point is the threat is now, and I'm the foreign minister now. January 20th is in a week or so. So my job is to work on retaliatory tariffs as we speak, and that's why I'm going into the cabinet room. My job is to make sure that we're ready should President-elect Trump decides to go on with his tariffs, and that's why I took the decision.
How likely do you think that's going to happen?
Pardon?
How likely do you think it is that that's going to happen?
I think that we have to be ready. I think that when President Trump talks, we listen, and we need to take him very seriously. And we need to show the American people and folks and people around Trump that there will be real consequences, that Canada has a deep affection for the U.S., has a strong relationship, is its closest ally, but also we have leverage. And so we'll do so. Last question.
Beyond retaliatory tariffs,
Yeah.
what does being ready mean? When you say we need to be ready, it's in a week. What else?
Well, we have to be ready in terms of not only retaliatory tariffs, but also this is a new administration. The new administration will be composed of people that will be confirmed by Congress. Folks that are being, secretaries that are being confirmed by Congress, we need to make sure that we meet with them. We've met with some of them, which is not what actually is quite unusual, because usually they don't do any meetings before confirmation. We've met already. I've met with Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State. I've met also with Tom Homan, which will be I've talked with him over the phone 3 times. He's the border czar. I've met with Howard Lutnick, the Secretary of Treasury and the Secretary of Trade. I've met with Doug Burgum, which is the Secretary of Energy. I've had many conversations with Lindsey Graham. I've talked to him pretty much every day. I've had also contacts with Mark Waltz, the new National Security Advisor. So these folks are starting officially on January 20th. But the reality is their action plan is already ready. So on January 20th, they're starting and putting that into action. And so that's why we have to be ready. Get my point? And last point, guys, which I didn't tell, as Foreign Minister, I'm very much aware that we are chair of the G7 this year. So, and my job, along with the Prime Minister, is to make sure that these meetings go well and that we play a leadership role. Well, other countries of the G7 are concerned about the partnerships of countries within the G7, also based on the new administration in the U.S. coming in. And so based on that, I'll make sure that we play a leadership role. Yesterday, we announced that we were now recognizing President-elect Edmundo González in Venezuela, and so we had our first important statement of the G7 regarding what's going on in Venezuela.
L'énergie et les mesures canadiennes, on fait quoi avec ça?
So, c'est assez. Merci.